Welcome back to Twisted Dice. Today we're going to be talking to Andrew. He's back. He's come to join us again. He's come to shed his awesome wisdom upon the awesome new code. I said codex, but it's not. The new awesome rule, Engine Wars, Psychic Awakening. And Andy, you've told me already there's some real juicy content in here.
Yeah, it's funny you called it a codex because it kind of feels like one. To be honest,
I don't know why.
It feels like the Space Marine supplements in terms of the kind of power level. I'd say more quite measured. Like definitely, there's some really really good things in here, but they're not necessarily easy to use. Yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's a really 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 good book that makes AdMech super fun to use. But also, I love the fact that it doesn't feel like one build.
And that's awesome,
like,
right?
Yeah, so, it feels like within here I can use all sorts of units that I've maybe not been able to use or keen to use for quite a long time. Obviously, combined with all the stuff that's been coming out from GW in the past couple of weeks around what's going on in Ninth, which is also sort of, making you realise
Ninth at the moment is going to be a big thing, and it's going to be a big talking point.
Oh, it's going to be huge.
On that note, if you're watching this back, you like the content we're pushing out Twisted Dice, please don't forget to hit the subscribe. By hitting the sub, it really does help us out massively, and we would really, really appreciate it. And again, make sure you're smashing that bell. That bell's going to keep you updated on all the cool content that's coming out for Twisted Dice. And boy, we have got some really awesome content that's going to be coming out very, very soon. Plus, hopefully, you get to see more of Andrew as well. And as he starts shedding his wisdom to the Twisted Dice community, it's going to be big. It's going to be awesome. Now, if you love what we do at Twisted Dice and want to support us a little bit further, we do offer a Patreon service. Come and join that awesome Discord chat. Any support would be absolutely awesome. Just by watching this and liking the video has been absolutely massive on itself. But let's get back to this video. So
yeah, we got to love. Well, you got to love your Twisted Dice. It's important.
That's it, and we're twisted. Yeah. So
absolutely. But yeah, so here we go. Yeah, it's a really interesting book. And I think it's quite unique in the supplements we've seen so far because there's so many new units in it, and I think there's loads of places we could look and we could talk for hours on this. But it's probably best just to focus on some of the kind of key things that are going on. So we might as well sort of start with some of the new units. I think everyone's kind of aware of a lot of the units that are coming.
So how many new units have they received in this new edition? So they've got is it new HQ?
Yeah, so the HQ is he came out originally in a I think it was a Kill Team box set.
Yeah.
So it was this Tech Priest Manipulus, and he came in this box set with a bunch of like Ruststalkers or something, and he's very cool. He's always had very cool rules. He's a big part of the list that we spoke about previously because he basically has two core features that we're used to, and there's one of which is called Bolster Warriors and one is called Bolster Weapons. And the one I used to use a lot was the Bolster Weapons, which gives you an extra 6 inches to weapons of more than 24 inches and 3 inches for less than that, which of course that takes flamers over the edge, when it comes to
it really does
and stuff.
And of course
he can't move. If you move him, he can't do his thing with that one. But it's still pretty good. And again, he can also add 1 inch to the movement characteristic, and also advance and charge rolls. So again, you can kind of get him in position to boost the movement of different models and things. So he's got a couple of little uses. He's got a half decent little gun. He's really cheap and just a great model. And I think he's a model we've seen on the tabletop a lot already. But
it's a lovely little model though.
He's like a giant floating potato. He's amazing.
Yeah, I love it. There's something nergly about him.
There's all this as well. He's got
there's something nergly about him.
Yeah, he's cool. Well, I don't think there's anything more chaos than AdMech.
I totally agree.
Like it's dark. AdMech is dark. All those breachers that we're going to be talking about in a bit. They didn't want to be breachers. It's not a great life. And you read that, like, the lore is brilliant. Things like dragoons. Apparently, once they sort of put people in, and with dragoons they kind of bolted into them. They have to put them in pens because they can't stop, so they just run the whole time. So a dragoon never stops moving. If you stop them, they die in the lore. They're crazy. There's all sorts of crazy things with them. But yeah, this Manipulus anyway.
So how do they mount them then?
They're just kind of built, and then they set them going, and then once they've set them going, they can't stop them again. They know how to turn them on, but they don't know how to turn them off.
But the dragoons though have someone sat on the back of them, though, don't they?
Yeah, but they're actually like, when you look at the guy in the Dragoon, he's like physically part of the Dragoon.
Oh,
So,
you know,
they're wired in. They're not. It's not like the Sulfur Hounds that we're about to get to.
See, the problem is with the Dragoons, Andy. I've never had a chance to get so close to the damn things to actually cause any damage. So
yeah, well, they're pretty. Yeah, they're awesome models, but they're so expensive. But they're very cool. I mean, like pound wise, not points wise. They're great models, and we'll be talking about their kind of gun brothers, the Ballistari, in a bit, because again, the Ballistari got nasty with some of the combos you can do with them, where you're +1 to wound, +1 strength, extra pip of AP and half range, these kind of things. You can do a lot to make these autocannons a little bit scary. But yeah, so we've got the Manipulus as the kind of HQ that's come with it. Interestingly, they haven't done old Daedalosus as however you say it, as a model in this. I thought he might come as well. He was a Blackstone Fortress figure who can just put +1 to hit against a unit within 24 inches. So
that's still So that
he's great, and he's so cheap.
And a lot of people do use him at the moment.
Loads of people use him, but he's very easy to convert as well. You can take a data smith and an Omni scanner and a few bits, and you can make a pretty convincing model as a pretty easy conversion. So I know certainly mine's a converted one because he's just really hard to get hold of. So yeah, that's the HQ model. There's a couple of fast attacks. Well, actually, more than a couple of fast attacks. Lots of fast attack slots.
I was looking at that. There's absolutely
sort of two, isn't there? Yeah, two kind of categories. You've got the Sulfur Hounds and the Raiders, and basically the Sulfur Hounds are basically Vanguard, so Skitarii Vanguard on flame throwing donkey dog horse things. They're pretty cool, and they kind of run around and set fire to stuff. I don't actually, from a game perspective, I don't think that they have play. I don't think that the Sulfur Hound is good, but amazing model. But on the other hand, the Raider, which is basically a ranger on a dog horse thing. Yeah, they're very cool models. These don't have the flame throwing mouths, but they have some play because they're so cheap. They're less than 5 points 5 points a wound.
Wow. Okay.
In terms of their cost, if you go on points per wound, which isn't always a great story, because of course, I mean, they're toughness 3 with a 4 up. But
I was going to say they're only T3, so they're going to be easily wounded.
They can be, but I mean, there are ways of buffing them. Again, with AdMech, you've got your shrouds on,
of course,
all sorts of things you can do with them. But they have the reason why I think they're interesting is because you can pre-game move them. So there's a pre-game move where you can move them up to their full movement of 12 inches. But not within 9 inches of another model. So you can imagine if you're going first, you can push these things forward and then you can go again. What you create is a giant wall for your AdMech gun line to exist behind.
A really good screen.
It's a really good screen, and they get really interesting as a screen because if you charge them, there's a strat. I think there's only 1 CP. I'll just check. I just need to check that one. But there is a strat for these fellas. I'll read it to you. It's 2 CP. Sorry, it's a little bit broken. It's called Tactica Obliqua. Right. Use this stratagem in your opponent's charge phase when a Cerberus Raiders unit from your army is chosen to be the target of a charge for the first time that turn. Instead of firing Overwatch, that unit can move or fall back as if it was your movement phase. So they've got a 12-inch move. So they're not getting charged. So all of a sudden you've got a screen that somebody's got to deal with, because if you don't deal with them, they also, I mean, they have some sorts of teeth. They each carry a pistol. Oh no, sorry, the leader guy carries a pistol, which is a strength 5 -2 2 damage pistol.
I see that, yep.
And then they've all got assault 2, strength 4, AP dash damage 1, with -1 AP on a wound roll of a 6. But they also they can target characters and do multiple
That's really good.
6s. So if you've got little Imperial Guard characters or GSC, characters that are, or even, I mean, actually Eldar Psychers, I mean, they've got an unsave, but actually they're not, it's easy to make them make the save. I think that's what you want, isn't it, with these kind of units? If you're going to use them as sniping units, you're not going to take out a Primaris captain, but you might just whittle away a bit on sort of smaller characters. So I just think they've got play from the sheer movement potential of them, the fact they move so far, the pre-game move that you don't have to invest CP in.
See, that's really cool. But you see, that to me, like the fallback is massive, because then that's
I think it's huge.
that's going to stop any army from getting into combat. So you can put, you're right, you know, you could put that screen forward to stop someone from getting into yourself. And if they do get you into combat, then you've got that ability then to push yourself back.
Yeah,
that's massive.
And 6 of them are still like 18 wounds.
Yes.
And if you've got, and we'll come back to this later on, but if you've got a Lucius Warlord, then you can get them onto a 5+ invuln. And if you've got a, if they're sat on an objective in the middle of a table with your Lucius Warlord, you can get them onto a 4+ invuln.
So thinking about at the moment, we've got that big topic of 9th that's around the corner. Very, very soon, we're going to be seeing 9th. How much? So, like at the moment, we you know, there's you've got the move and you've got all the cool abilities. How much of this do you think that potentially we could see a change in points from going up or down?
Oh well, yeah, I think points are going to change quite a bit. I know people are saying, oh, you know, it'll be 20%. I think 20% might be on the. I mean, it's only speculation, but I think it's going to be on. I think it's going to be more. I think GW, and we've heard this as well from other sort of people in the know through the community that there is a move to speed the game up. You know, I think competitive play wants to see 4 rounds in a day,
and do you know what?
Not feel blasted by it.
No, and
to be able
to
play 6-round tournaments, or 2 sets of 3, or a 4 and a 2, or even 7-round tournaments, or or single day tournaments with 30 people where you get a winner, or this is the kind of thing that the game's wanted, but also this sense of interaction. That people want to interact. I always think I've always had a bit of a soft spot for like Death Guard armies.
Yes,
it feels like that scene in Monty Python's like Meaning of Life, where every time the camera pans up, the army's running and it's got no closer. It feels like that. Death Guard. It takes so long for them to get there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter you've got Cloud of Flies, because you're not getting there. And,
no.
And this, I think, is going to throw armies into each other. And this is what I like about this. We're going to have a smaller board, less models. We know again from the rules. Actually, there was a bunch of rules announcements today looking at blast weapons. And I think we're seeing, we're seeing that the game is going to move more elite. I think that's the rumor that we're hearing, and actually things like mechanized lists where you're putting units in transports, which by the way AdMech are amazing at, and particularly and we're going to come to a little combo a bit later on, which makes breachers and arc enabled rangers a little bit gross, and actually even you might even, there's some of the custom forge worlds, like there's not much good in there, you might say, but actually there's a couple of cool little janky things in there. Like if you I mean, again, we know detachments are going to cost CP, so actually there's not necessarily going to be this great drive to be doing these kind of very specialized things, but you can increase the range of rad saturation for which basically any Vanguard unit has this thing where they're radiated, and if they're within an inch, they drop the unit by 1 toughness. So I often like to do this where if I'm putting my Terminators into combat and I've got some Vanguard, I'll charge the Vanguard in as well, just to drop the toughness of the thing I'm punching by 1.
That's a really good shout.
Which is really cool. But with now, there is one of the Forge World traits, the new Forge Worlds, the sort of build your own journey, version of it, where you can increase the range of that to 3 inches, so you don't have to get into combat.
So it's interesting because it sounds strange, like when you say like Forge World, because like for me, Forge World would be all the cool stuff you get from Forge World, like all the resin models, like just hearing you saying like the Forge World and that kind of throws me off a little bit. Like
well, each planet is that. I guess that's what that whole idea of this.
And that's the idea. Yeah, you're right.
Custom models, and that's
where Forge Worlds come from.
Yeah.
So.
But, they've got some. So I really like these Raiders. I think the Raiders are cool. I mean, whether they're going to be like proper top tier competitive, we won't know. But sometimes the fact a unit is going to die doesn't matter.
No.
It's like if you're running, there's a lot of people moving to 4 impulsor lists. I think. Well, obviously we don't know, but I'm seeing it on Tabletop Simulator and in the various chats I get involved in. And I have a Salamanders list that I want to get a 3rd impulsor for, with another Thunderhammer and Adrax, so I can turn them all into Blood Angels and hit stuff with hammers, because hammers are cool. But yeah, so but I think there's play. I just think there's play, and that's what I'm excited about for 9th. That I see I see that perhaps points efficiency and output might become I'm hoping. Okay, this is a hope, I would say, but from all the things that we've seen GW talking about, and we haven't yet even heard about how all of the reinforcements are going to work. But I'm hoping that there's going to be enhanced value in models being able to do stuff.
And that would be cool.
You know, and that's what I want, a more tactical game. I want a strategy game. And also I want dice to matter. I don't like the sort of, you know, designing dice out of the list. I think that kind of variance is what makes the game exciting and creates those kind of hero moments, doesn't it? It's that guy who does that thing that he shouldn't have done and saves the day, or that, you know,
it brings me back to fifth.
Knights a Knight with a melter gun or whatever. It's amazing. So, you know, that's the kind of thing that I'm excited by. So yeah, we got these guys anyway, these kind of dog guys. They move a long way, 12 inches. They've got some cool weapons. They've got some combat output, but not much. Some shooting output, enough to be annoying. But really, it's their screening potential and their ability to fall back 12 inches when you charge them.
I think the ability for them is going to be, as you're right, screening, the ability to stop the charging, but more importantly, the speed of them has got the ability to hold objectives early on in the game as well.
And small enough to hide. Small enough to hide, so that if you are going second, and again, you know, don't you? You now know you're not on that dice roll. Oh heck, I lost. So I think they're going to be a flexible unit. The pre-game move is going to be huge.
Do we know that's still going to be a thing?
Move, again, you don't have to go forwards.
Do we still know that's going to be a thing in 9th edition? Though have they talked about that?
Yeah, these rules they're all going to port. So
no, what I mean is like the turn one. Do you know, like at the moment with like especially with ITC, if you opt to go first, you're going first, and the other person.
Oh no, that hasn't been confirmed. But I think I'm happy to make the assumption. I think it will be, but yeah, maybe not. Maybe they'll throw that in there. But I think that'd be good. Been a positive change. So yeah.
that has been a positive change, because then that changes the way. But in the same sense, though, that also the only thing I don't like about that is that ability for that other person then to be able to react to that, if that makes sense. And that, you know, you've got that kind of like glimmer of hope that if you are facing a army that can absolutely devastate you turn one, that you've got that small glimmer of hope that if the dice gods are in your favour, you have that small ability to save the game.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And like, actually, you
know, the problem is the ability to save the game should be in terrain and in strategy.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the sense I'm getting, that they're trying to make it. That's the plan, and I hope so, because that would be really fun. I want to be able to walk up to a game and not know who's going to win before we've played it.
Yes,
that's the thing. And you know, I mean, I was at LVO this year, as you know, and I sort of won my first 2 games with a really silly list. Took a Night Valiant, it was fun, and then ran into the you know, Leviathan style list, and you know, I played the game, did my best, scored some points, but that's not. It was a game I could have played it 100 times, and there was nothing that could have happened to the dice that would have made me win that game. So that's the kind of thing I think. And maybe that's my fault for building a list that wasn't super crazy, but I think I could have taken the only list you're going to take against that list was the mirror.
I think so. LVO this year probably might not happen.
Yeah, well, and if it does, I suspect it'll be more of a local meta than a international meta. But
we've got something to look forward.
Get back there.
We've got something to look forward to in a year and a bit's time.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back. It was brilliant, and I'd recommend anyone.
Next time I'm going to say some pennies to come and join everyone.
You know, I know John's a fan as well, so it's
I think John does that.
Simon.
That march like religiously, so that'd be really cool.
Absolutely.
Right, we're digressing. We're going away. We're going well away.
Off. So anyway, we've got these raiders. They're cool. The next ones we've got are the sterilizers and the sky stalkers, the Patraxi.
Yeah.
And these Patraxi are basically AdMech jump troops. Interestingly, they've got the infantry keyword and they can get in transports, but we'll see whether that gets changed. But these guys with the big foldy fly out wings, they can get into a Dune Rider, which is fun. Now these guys are interesting. There's 2 of them. There's the sterilizers. I guess they're a bit more like your Sulfur Hounds in the sense they set fire to stuff.
Yeah.
But I like these guys. I like these guys a lot because they fly, and we know that fly is good, and I'm assuming that fly will remain good. We've got this Phosphor Torch, which is an Assault D6 12-inch flamer. And 12 inches for me is the key there, because it means that you're always going to be able to use this thing, you know, no matter what the situation you're in, whether it is. You've got the Strength 4, which is Strength 4 -1. So you've got -1 AP in there, which is I just think makes it interesting. A big blob of them would be interesting.
All of a sudden, that's your orc killer. That's your guard killer.
Yeah, it's a horde. I mean, we don't know whether horde's going to be a thing. I suppose they've also got a combat weapon, which for Admech's cool because I want to be able to use a bit of combat. Again, I want my list to have some combat threat, and we know that we've got priests. Priests were good, still are good, maybe even better now. But these guys they've got a combat weapon, which is strength user -1 damage, but +1 strength on the turn they charge or if they perform a heroic intervention.
That's really good.
So they suddenly go to strength 5 because they're strength 4 base, which is unusual. And they have a stratagem which allows them to tie something in combat. So they can lock something in. Now, again, they're going to die. They're only 2 wounds each, but they're not hugely expensive. And again, they're +1 attack when they charge. So they're 3 attacks each base. So all of a sudden, if you've got 10 of them going in, that's 31 attacks because you get +1 for the alpha. With this strength 5 -1 damage weapon, which is that's interesting. And there are other ways of boosting them in combat, which we'll get to the fun stuff later on. But so there is this strat, which is a 1 CP strat, Deeply Sunk Talons, which is their spiky feet things. And again, if you use it in your opponent's movement phase, when an infantry unit within an inch of the army is chosen to fall back on a 2+, they can't. So it's a bit, it's not. It doesn't work the same way as the Drakari one, which I've always thought is brilliant, where you have the kind of roll off thing.
But that kind of has merit though, because that if you've got if you do go into combat, that's something that that it's going to struggle to kill them. It gives them a chance to then next turn get out of combat and then go to where they need to go. So basically stopping them being shot at. So that's pretty cool.
If you are in with some guardsmen or something, or you've tried to wrap something. Again, we don't know how the combat phase is going to work. That's like the biggest question for me.
No, and you're 100% right on that. This is going into the assumption that at the moment combat is still the same as it is at the moment.
And at the moment, it's like guns. Yeah, guns. We get guns, but and again, there's this interesting thing already, isn't there? This kind of the engagement zone or whatever they're calling it, which is an inch, not an inch from an inch. Not within an inch of an inch, but and I don't know whether you're in a threat zone if you're within an inch, and then you can activate if we don't know. So, it'll be interesting how that goes. Then there's the other guys that are the same kind of base model unit, but they have slightly different weapons in that they have a flechette carbine, which is a 24-inch assault 5 strength 3 AP dash damage 1 weapon.
Interesting. That's a lot of shots.
Which it's a lot of shots, and of course there is a stratagem in the existing Admech Codex that will allow you to do mortal wounds on 6s. So, as a mortal wound bomb, you've now got a flying version of the old one with the old Sicarian one that you could drop in and do. So sure. So they're it's interesting. Again, I just think they're too expensive for that, and actually the Flamer guys are more expensive, but I think they've got genuine utility. Both of these units can be picked up and moved and taken off the board like the Eldar Sweeping Hawks, so they can just pick up and disappear off. And again, if you much like Sweeping Hawks, if you move over a unit, there is also on the Sky Stalkers, they have arc grenades, so they can drop grenades.
Wow.
For each model that flies over. But interestingly, if they do that on a 5, so on a 5 up they do a mortal wound, but they add 2 to the roll if they fly over a vehicle. Cool. So they're going to be good at finishing off vehicles. But I just think that's such a niche play. It's not something that particularly excites me. So I'm going to be building mine with the Flamers.
So potentially the point cost on them at the moment, they're not really viable in a competitive game.
I just don't see why you just wouldn't use the sterilizers. I don't think that strats that you've got so many other ways of dealing damage with Admech that having a 12-inch flamer on a flying chassis that can natively deep strike can actually get in a transport. Though why you'd want to, I'm not sure. I suppose it's another 4 inches of movement, isn't it, or whatever. But so I think they're interesting, maybe. And I think we'll see them. I think we'll see them.
Jump in the vehicle for protection?
Yeah, potentially. But again, they can just leave.
Yeah.
They can just go.
No, I mean, to get yourself up the board and then get in a position.
Yeah. I like them because they move. And that's what I like. I like movement's really important. There's lots of utility. They're going to be able to help me score points. They're not there necessarily to kill anything, But in that matchup where I'm like, I've got a lot of big guns and you've got a lot of small things, all of a sudden they become the thing you want to protect, because they're going to deal the damage to those units that are. Because at the end of the day, you win a game of Warhammer by standing somewhere. Killing stuff just lets you stand there for longer. That's the kind of way it goes. Although I build armies that kill stuff, and then once everything's dead, you worry about where you're standing. But yeah, so it's interesting. So it's good. So I like them. Obviously, the Dune Rider and the Disintegrator, they've now appeared in here with full sets of rules. A couple of interesting strats. There's a 0 CP strat with the Dune Rider. That means if your vehicle's blown up, units can get out without suffering casualties. So you don't roll the dice on ones and you just survive, and that's 0 CP. So it's quite nice to see these 0 CP stratagems coming in. And the Disintegrator has an interesting stratagem now, which is if you shoot all its guns at the same thing, you can add one to the hit roll, and the target loses the benefit of cover, which is really important, I think, with a gun that's strength 6 -1, 2 damage, because shooting -1 at things in cover is really upsetting. you just don't do anything. So all of a sudden, that -1 almost becomes a -2 against a Marine in cover. They're not getting that cover save back. So it's a little 1 CP strat, I think, but it might come in. I mean, obviously, it means you've got to fire everything at the same target. So one of the weapons is likely to be less efficient, be it the missile or the stubber. But there's some play there, and we'll see why there's more play with that when we get into the juicy rules. And then the other thing that we've got is the thing that everyone's been talking about, which are these flyers.
The new hotness, the £60 hotness.
They're expensive. I'll have a couple. But yeah, I don't know how good they are. And there's a sort of argument about this amongst players. I think the transport is junk, because it can't hold enough people to make it worth it. You just stick them in a Dune Rider in a boat. It's just a better way to run them. So I don't think they have play for that. I mean, there is that stratagem if you don't take so they have a thing called a chaff launcher that you can put on them for about, I think it's 20 points for the chaff launcher, which makes them like wave serpents. So it's -1 damage. So it adds, which is massive for survivability. When you're taking 1 damage off D3 weapons and 2 damage weapons,
that's really powerful.
It's so strong, so strong, and they're already hard to hit. So
toughness 7 as well. Wow.
Toughness 7, 10 wounds. So 3-up save.
I suppose most planes are T7 though, aren't they? But I'd thought Admech.
A lot of them are T6. A lot of the Eldar planes are T6, aren't they?
Yes.
So
I'm thinking
a lot of them are T6. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I think
I would have thought they would have been T6.
They look T6.
They do look T6.
They've got big giant bat rings. That doesn't look like something that should survive. But yeah, so yeah, they're toughness 7, and they've got all these things going on. But so yeah, I don't rate the transport. I'm not gonna bother looking at that one. The gunship I quite like. So the gunship's got a couple of it's got some Cognis heavy stubbers, which are the strength 4 heavy 3-shot stubber, and you can do Cognis over which one of them, but you're not going to spend CP on that. And they've got a pair of heavy phosphor blasters, which they're pointed at 0 points in this book. So we're waiting for a fix on that, because I can't believe that's right, because that's going to take like 45 points off robots if they're free. If they're free, robots become, well, I mean, we're getting new points anyway. But yeah, of course, if they're going free, that
a couple of months' time, it's going to be relevant because the points are going to change anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But so at the current points, these planes are on the edge, in my opinion. And I've seen some people going, they're amazing and broken. Other people going, I'm not so sure about it. And I really like them. And I think the beautiful thing about this book is, even if they're not necessarily the best, they are still good.
Yes.
And I think we have this horrible habit in Warhammer. We've got a unit, it's broken. Somebody nerfs it, so we bin it. And what they've done is they've nerfed it from broken to amazing. But because it's not broken anymore, and then 6 months later it's back in the meta. And why have these come back in? It's like, well, just because people have realised that they're still really good. And actually there's less and less broken stuff. As the game's evening out, being very good becomes...
But you tend to find, though, as soon as someone finds a broken unit, all of a sudden, every tournament you go to, you tend to find that same list, same army, just like copy paste.
Absolutely.
Paste, so maybe with a different colour scheme.
And I always have a lot of respect for that person who brings something different. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then it becomes a thing, and then it's nerfed, and off we go. But these guys are interesting. So he's got his heavy fossil blasters, which are strength 6 -2, 1 damage. And he's also got twin Cognis las cannons, heavy 2, strength 9 -3 d6. And we now know in 9th they're not going to suffer the penalty for moving and firing.
And that's going to be
because
powerful.
that's infantry only. So that's going to be powerful. We don't know how flyers are going to work. These things can go into hover. There is a strat to make them +1 to hit against ground targets. Again, there's a 1 CP strat, +1 to hit. And we'll see in a bit that, you know, if you just sort of start your first turn in a corner and then land next to call in a Mars detachment with the Mars Canticle now, which gets you an additional -1, an additional +1 strength, and you can run a Warlord trait to get you an additional -1 AP at half range. All of a sudden, anything within 24 inches is getting hit with strength 10 -4 d6 damage las cannons.
Yeah, sure.
So, and there's another Warlord trait you can use to make you re-roll hits with Cognus weapons. But if you've got Call in the list, who cares? Because I think if you're running this guy with all his guns, you're going to run Mars.
Yeah.
You're going to have Call in the list. That's probably how you're probably building a gun line. And it's great until you look at Ballistari and go, okay, the autocannon Ballistari are amazing.
So let's talk about strats then, because I think bearing in mind in time.
Yeah. So the
time is crucial. And
we should just very briefly mention the bomber.
Go for it.
The bomber's cool because it drops bombs every turn, up to 10 dice as you fly over stuff, 4 up mortal wounds. So against a big squad of unit, you're going to do 5 mortal wounds. Plus you've got a bunch of stubbers, which are also going to do damage.
Was this the plane you were talking about, where you could pretty much move, turn, move?
All of them have this insane rule, which is the one thing I wanted to talk about. When it says when the model moves in your movement phase, the first pivot on the spot up to 90, so we get to pivot, which doesn't contribute to the move. Then you can move straight forwards. Then at any point in its flight, it can pivot 90 degrees again, and then it can finish its move of up to 50 inches.
That's massive.
So it's got a double pivot, which means no matter how well your opponent screens you out, if you deploy well, you can drop your bombs.
That's crazy.
So a lot of them, and we're looking at burner bombers now, and I think we're all a bit desperate to and they're really hard to mitigate as well, actually, because they're very difficult to deal with. But these guys have a mid-move pivot. So
and that's crazy.
You can move, you can pivot, move across, pivot, move back, and you've moved 10 inches, but actually you've travelled 40. So
yeah,
that's an interesting dynamic. But again, we don't know how flyers are going to work. But I'm going to sit on the fence on them as to whether they're good or not. There's some cool strats which I think are a bit of a trap. If you don't run the chaff launcher, you can basically you can turn off auras, so you can land them in your opponent's army and turn off auras within 6 inches.
That's good.
Which is good, but I just think it's going to get blown out of the sky. So I think it's good if you I think the time you want it, and I don't know if you put it into a tournament list for this, is that you just fly into the middle of a tower list and turn off Saga protocols. So, but Tower moving away from Saber Protocol builds. I think they're moving into Crisis Suit builds. So that's not the builds that I think we're going to see. So we'll hit the stratagems in a minute. There's not really that many I kind of want to go through, but the thing that I think is where we're interesting is Warlord traits. And I hope this is a thing now, the way they've done these Warlord traits. No one really has Warlord traits like this. So there are 4 Warlord traits.
Yep.
And each Warlord trait has 3 traits, and you pick 1 each turn. You can keep using the same one. So so let's say we go for the learnings of the Genitor. So at the start of your turn, you pick one of the 3 options within learnings of the Genitor. And one of them is roll 1d6 each time a friendly Forge World Kataphron Breacher, Kataphron Destroyer, or Forge World Servitor you model within loses a wound. And this is model, not unit, but model within 6 inches of this Warlord. On a 5+, that wound is not lost. So you're giving yourself a 5 up, feel no pain on a toughness 5, 3 wound Breacher. Which is interesting. We'll come back to this. It's interesting. Then, but you can choose that, or you can choose, and this is for every single turn, you choose one of these 3, biomedical aggression. When resolving a tap made with a melee weapon by a friendly Forge World model whilst units within 6 inches of this Warlord, and this is unit this time, so the whole unit gets the benefit. So they've been very clever with their use of unit and model, which I'm really pleased to see. On an unmodified wound roll of a 6, improve the armor penetration characteristic of that weapon by 2.
Wow.
So if you know that you're getting charged that turn, then you've got to make a decision, actually, or you're charging, do I want my feel no pains, or do I want to get some more AP in and maybe finish this unit? So I like that. It's tactical. And then the last one is that you can ignore morale, basically, for within 6 inches. So that's the 3 traits that come with that guy. And there's 4 of them. There's another one. There's the Analyses of the Logos, which gives you Overwatch on a 5+. You've got Empiric Prognosis, which is if you take a mortal wound on the result of the psychic phase on a 4+, you ignore it. Now, by the way, you can buy these for a CP. So if you're playing Grey Knights, you're spending that CP, aren't you?
Hell
you're sticking it on a character, and you're sticking that character in the middle of your army and going, smite me. And then there's Flaws of the Foe, where you, on a modified hit roll of a 6, you increase the AP by 1. There's the Divinations of the Magos, where you've got, just to summarise, hit rolls of a 6 score 1 additional hit.
Is that and that's an aura again? Any model within 6
and that's
inches?
Just any model within 6 inches. So your Belleros, Energy Cannon, Dune Riders, or as I'm going to suggest, Breachers, because Breachers are interesting. They were already good. Now they're horrible. He also, on the turn you decide to charge, you can change it so that you get reroll charge, and you can give him the Lucius. You could give him the Lucius. I can't remember what it's called. It's gone out of my head. But anyway, there's a teleporter.
Yeah.
So he can then disappear off and reappear somewhere else. At that point, all of a sudden, you can drop a reroll charge bubble, And if you want to go really mad, I've seen this suggested on another forum. Like you can put it on punchy bots who've Lucius Deep Struck in, and then they're plus 3 inches to their charge with a reroll.
Oh wow, fun. That's going to be really powerful.
Yeah, I just wish that punchy bots didn't hit on 4s, then they'd be really good. And then his other one is again that you can roll additional 6 and pick the highest on an advance, which is not going to be very useful. And the last one is Fabrications of the Artisan. But as I say, you can spam characters in AdMech lists very easily. They've got some quite cheap character models. And he has one where it says exquisite calibrations, as it is. Forge roll models within 6 inches of this warlord against the unit within half range. Improve the AP characteristic of that weapon by 1. So this is why I'm thinking these Ballistari autocannons. All of a sudden, I've got autocannons at -2 damage with the Mars Canticle at strength 8 with +1 to wound.
I'm so glad at the moment tournaments are not happening.
Yeah, I'd have I'd be running them. They'd be on there for sure. Those autocannon Ballistari are brilliant. His second one.
Jesus.
Is that an attack made with an arc weapon by friendly Forge World model within 6 inches of this warlord against a vehicle unit. An unmodified wound roll of 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target. And we all know that Breachers have arc weapons.
Yep.
Breachers. And they're D6 damage against vehicles. And we're moving into a vehicle meta.
Yes.
Just saying. And then you've got your... I'm a bit excited about Breachers. I've loved Breachers. I've got 18 of them. I love them. And then we've got enhanced engine interfaces. Now, this is where the soup player in me that everyone knows gets very excited, because it says friendly vehicle models within 6 inches.
You are definitely a soup player.
Can shoot in a turn in which they fell back, which means that my Lehman Russ can fall back and shoot.
That's really good.
Which I like.
If it doesn't get FAQ'd.
If it doesn't get FAQ'd. And they've been so deliberate with the use of the word for every single piece of wording in this book. Is deliberate. So I don't think this is an FAQ thing, but I just think the CP punishment for souping, it's a bitter pill to take. But AdMech don't actually need that many CP. But I will say, as I say, you can pick all of these warlord traits. You can have them all.
I think that's going to be the interesting thing when we go into 9th, is what the cost is going to be for the soup, because it's obvious that they're trying to come away from soup, and like from a tournament side of things, and I think I prefer that. Because
I think they're doing it whereby you have to invest in it.
Yeah.
So.
But that's cool, because then that's encouraging you not to go for the soup.
But if you love it.
Oh, if you love it, then you're going to do it. Like
the price you're paying for it might just balance things out.
Sure.
So I'm fingers crossed on that one. I suspect I'm not going to see. I'm really tempted to. Well, I've got my Grey Knights, but I'm really tempted to run AdMech. I've got the army built, so I should probably give it a go. There's then a whole bunch of Forge World dogmas, so you can build your own Forge World. There's a couple of things that are interesting here within this one. A couple of them are there's a fun one, Rad Saturated Forge World, where any infantry unit with this dogma that's not within 12 inches subtract 1 from the strength characteristic of weapons that shoot at it. So it makes infantry a bit more survivable, but I just don't see you to take it. The only thing I like about this one is the 3-inch bubble of -1 strength and toughness. From like Vanguard rather than than a 1-inch. And also the Sulfur Hounds have this as well. So you could make it work with Sulfur Hounds if it's something you wanted to do, but I don't see it being great. There are some really good ones in here, though. There's some really, really good ones in here that you would put on a specific group. And the one that I sort of immediately, and I remember my friend Dan was like, "You've got to see this because you're going to love it," because he knows I love Breachers. And there's one called there's the Data Horde Forge World. It's called.
Yeah.
The Data Horde Forge World. It's so you get two characteristics. There's a primary one that's fixed, and you pick a secondary one from a list of 3 or 4. So the primary one is when a vehicle model with this dogma would lose a wound on a D6, a 6, that wound is not lost. 6 up, feel no pain for vehicles. So I'm like, cool.
Pretty much, yeah.
They've got enough wounds that, I might get an extra turn. Great. But there's three in there that are quite cool. There's one with Cognis range weapons. By model of this dogma, within half range, you can re-roll the hit roll. So again, if you're not playing Mars, but you've got Ballistari, then you've got a re-roll mechanic for those guys if you really want to. But, Breachers. Okay. So secondary transnode power cores. When resolving attack made with an arc weapon by a model with this dogma, and they've got arc claws and arc cannon things, an unmodified hit roll of 5 or 6 scores 1 additional hit. And let's not also forget that we've got a warlord trait that on a 6 they score an additional hit. So now I've got they stack. So I've got the ability for Breachers to hit once on a 4, twice on a 5, and 3 times on a 6. And once on a 3 if I've got Daedalosus in there. So that's a lot of hitting.
Oh my god, that's got to be broken.
And let's not also forget that I have the ability with the fabrications of the Artisan Warlord trait.
Oh my god, that's like, I'm just now envisioning this in my head, and the amount
rolls of 6. Sorry, I was to say, yeah, wound rolls of 6 do 1 mortal wound, and I've got all those hits. Now, these guys traditionally have a 6-up.
Jesus Christ.
6-up invuln. Now, I've got a 5-up feel no pain now from my other character, so I've given them a 5-up feel no pain with a 6-up invuln. I can use the Vigilus strat, the Vigilus formation, to give them a 5-up invuln. And then we have custom canticles. And one of these custom canticles, the Lucius one, improve the invulnerable save of models and affected units by 1 to a maximum of 4++. So I've now got my Breachers to a 4-up invuln. Because though my Breachers aren't Lucius, my Breachers are from another squad, another Forge World. The way these new canticles work, your Warlord brings the canticle into the list, and then you can use that canticle across your whole army.
Wow.
So I can now give my custom Forge World Breachers, and also I'll put some Rangers in a boat with arc rifles, because why not?
Why not? You're gonna,
why not? It's amazing. And they've got a 4-up invuln, and if they're stood on an objective, and I can run these in squads of 12.
Yep.
3 wounds each, toughness 5, 5-up feel no pain, 4-up invuln for 2 CP, +1 to your save. Not +1 to your invulnerable, but +1 to the roll.
+1 to your save and throw. So
you're 2-up, you're 3-up invuln.
Jeez. That's going to make it very, very hard to shift off objectives.
3-up invuln, 5-up feel no pain, which is not that far off a 2-up invuln.
No, not at all, not at all.
What is it? 4-up invuln, 5-up feel no pain is a 3-up invuln. Mathematically, you're going to save the same number over the.
That is absolutely crazy.
It's a little crazy, isn't it? So and yeah, just running loads of them, and then maybe run a Mars detachment to shoot some guns. There's a couple of these.
How many wounds do you reckon you could pump out a turn?
A lot, because each of them is D6. Each of them is D6 damage against a vehicle. D3 against normal troops. That's still good.
That's
like
definitely a scary little eighth at the moment. That's like I'm pitching this now with my orcs, and I'm thinking my orc boys coming up against that, and I'll be like, yeah, you might as well just take
it was already good in 8th, because the funny thing is you charge them with orc boys, the orc boys bounce off, and these things are good in combat. They've got 3 attacks each.
Yeah.
And you're not
look, I've come across them before in with orcs, and I know how devastating they are at the moment.
And you run Prime Hermeticon, Warlord trait, and then use CP for these ones.
Like my Gene Stealers have just gone up against them.
And they're re-rolling all of their hits in combat.
Jesus, they're like that's just made that unit like super powerful.
They already were. Like I remember playing against Beth's list of in a tournament when she was running Breacher spam, and you've got Rickard from Sweden, another great player, lovely guy. He ran a Breacher spam list for a long time. He's moved to boats now, and his Breacher spam list was amazing. So yeah, they're really good.
Wow,
really good. The other counter call that you might want to think about is the Mars one. So it says models and affected units do not suffer the penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons, which is neither here nor there because most AdMech ignore that anyway. And the only real heavy weapon you can take on a squad is the Transuranic Arquebus, and you can't fire that in the turn you move anyway. So, and I don't think that helps with that. But you do increase the strength of heavy weapons by 1. So all of a sudden, a unit of robots that you lock down that in 9th can shoot into combat.
Yeah.
They're 18 shots each.
Of course, because they're going to be classed as vehicles, aren't they?
Yeah, with full rerolls from call or monster. They used to be monsters, but they're vehicles now. But either category, they'll be fine. So yeah, they've got all their call rerolls. Strength 7, -2, 1 damaging or cover.
God, so it's going to be like those robots in 9th. If you don't get on them and deal with them like that turn.
Yeah, but if you've got a bunch of Electro Priests and the Electro Priest is just going to come out and punch them, and then they're going to be on a 3.
Oh, well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you don't get in there and deal with them, and get yourself in a position that in a safety net, you're.
It's great.
That's like a real.
It's great.
Oh wow.
But also all of that ballistari are going to be, those autocannons are going to be up to strength 7, and let's not forget that we're going to have the Scorpius Dune Riders. Their big problem is that strength 6 on that and the -1 AP. All of a sudden, I can get them strength 7 with this, which is cool. And I've also got, if I'm within half range, an extra pip of AP. So all of a sudden, my 3D3 and all line of sight gun is kicking out 3D3 strength 7 -2.
God, if this little war, if the AdMech got this strong, this powerful, I'm praying and hoping that we're going to have War of the. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, yes and no.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, yes, no, but it's a synergy list.
It is a synergy list, but you've got so many shots there that I don't think it would
Yeah.
I think most people will be able to just use that list and be like, with them just sheer amount of shots. I don't think it'll be a thing, and that'd be like the type of list that I'd expect to see Captain Whack with, and abusing and.
Yeah,
I think that would be the type of list that I think if I went to a tournament and come up against that, I think it would kind of be like roll my eyes and go, yeah, okay, I'm just going to say thank you very much. Let's go get a beer.
But in 8th, I think you're right.
Yeah,
but in 9th, with the proposed points increases, you can't have all your toys.
No,
so
and
this I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this. I call it a codex as well because it feels like one. I'm looking at it going, wow, I'm going to have to make choices. I'm going to have to build around these plays. And actually, to do this thing, my army's going to have to be fragile. To be survivable, I can't really be mobile. So then that's when these flying guys and the Sulfur Hounds the Raiders become interesting, because actually I can have or the planes, because I can go for a Breacher core and build mobility. But this to me feels like the kind of army where you've got to decide how you want to play. And you can make it all work.
Yeah,
and that's what excites me about this.
I
is that
think
you can,
you said the right thing.
And I don't think any of it's broken, actually, because everything's so killable.
You're right. Well, look, yes, a lot of things are killable in there, but even you've got to agree that the breachers.
The breachers is the thing that I'm smiling.
Yeah,
the breachers.
The breachers are going to be the one thing that I think is going to be difficult.
The bomb concerns me. I say it concerns me, and then I tell you earlier I've got 18 of them.
It concerns you if you have to face it, but it's an awesome pleasure to use it against your opponent. That's what you're saying. But look,
I've lost 2 tournaments now to Breacher spam, just because I had a list full of vehicles and they just murder vehicles. But they're not bad against other things. So
I was going to say that they're really good against other things. They can really destroy a lot of other things without ease.
There's other things as well in here that just to briefly mention as something that's probably worth bringing out. Electro Priests, Jazz Hands Electro Priests, loads of shots. They're now AP -2 for 1 CP.
Wow.
and you can run them Lucius, so they just pop up. Or in the new world of reinforcements that we're getting, they're going to be able to pop up with a table edge, which is going to mean that your opponent is going to have to stay away from the edges. It doesn't matter if you never get to fire them, because you've forced your opponent into a kill box.
Yeah.
So, and this is what I like about units. I like units that make your opponent do a thing. I could put
They've got to
those
react
in
to
there,
something.
put them in deep strike, and my opponent has to prepare for them. The same way, like if I'm a wolf player and I've got a squad of aggressors that I've sent off on a journey around the board, and they're going to come on an edge, all of a sudden I'm influencing my opponent, which is probably going to make them play worse. Sometimes just that threat of influence, and these units are cheap enough that you can throw a couple of these into a list. So I think it's going to be great. I think it's a really cool book. Sorry, Demon players, it's not. Theirs are not quite as good, although they've got some great stuff in here as well. There's some really interesting things about turning psychic powers off, and I don't know. There's better chaos players than me will find good things in this book. I'm absolutely convinced. I think there's some goodness in there, and I suspect that when monsters change, and we've got bloodthirsters that are now can take a maximum number of wounds a turn, all this kind of stuff. So there's good stuff in there. The night stuff is. The night stuff is not. There's some good things in there. There's some 6-inch heroic intervention type things. There's a few little things that are nice. And Imperium Knights get more of a boost than the Mechanicum ones, which is good because they're traditionally not as strong. There's some nice 1CP strats that will help you in the game. A few little things. If you take a particular model and you get guaranteed.
For me, it's all about the Chaos Knights, Andy.
But the Chaos Knights, yeah, I'll leave them to you. There's some cool stuff in there. But my problem is with the Chaos Knights is that I think they've made them more killy. I don't think they need to be more killy. They need to survive longer.
Yeah, and the problem is with the Chaos Knights, it always has been they can get destroyed really, really easy, and they've got to have that little bit more survivability on them.
Yes, and it's a fine line with Knights, isn't it? The moment you make them good, it's a problem. So.
Yeah, we've kind of gone through that era where Knights were a big thing, and they were a big problem on the tabletop where everyone was taking them. But I wouldn't say everyone was taking them, but a lot of people were taking them. And if you turn up to a tournament, it's kind of like, right, okay, I've got to deal with these, because if I don't, they're going to just absolutely ruin my day.
I played I played a whole year of Knights last year, and
yes,
and thoroughly
Yellow
enjoyed
Knights.
them. And I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them getting slowly worse because it got more fun with them. And I don't think I played them like. And my list was a bit weird. I always enjoyed them, like great fun.
Yeah, sure.
But one thing I do think is the more elite the game gets, which is what we're looking at moving towards, actually the better Knights get. Because one of the difficult things about being a Knight player, and Chaos Knight's a bit less because the gun loadouts you can take. But if you're an Imperium Knight, you don't have enough ability to split fire. You can overkill a unit.
Yes,
but you can't split it down. It's like, there's 3 cultists left. Well, I'll have to fire my Avenging Gatling cannon at them. It's really annoying, and they're not survivable enough. But as points change, it tends to be that opponents find it harder to kill them, and you're more able to pick targets that can slow an army down.
Yes,
that can again influence the way they're playing and make the game run longer. Because the longer you have Knights in the game, the more chance you have of winning that game. And totally Knights, we know again with Knights. Knights are, I think, the most swingy army on dice.
The beautiful thing
10
we
to 15% either way of average, and you smash a game. The
beautiful thing we do know about the new edition is the fact that they have mentioned about the Knights or units being able to reach into the terrain.
Which is huge.
And that's going to change everything, because at the moment that was a big problem, that if you was facing an infantry army and they've gone on to second floor, all of a sudden the Knights have got no way of interacting. I know they have now. Yeah. But
there was that chain sweep thing, but it was.
But you're spending CP for it, and it's not
absolutely.
Good.
Whereas this
not good enough for a Knight player, unfortunately.
I'm really excited for how it's going to go, and I'm really excited for this book, because I think this book. I actually think it's really like the new units. I think are really sensibly balanced. They're not broken, but they give you the opportunity to play the game a different way.
Yeah,
and I really like that. I really like that, and I hope that's a sign for the future.
Have said that the Psychic Awakening was always going to be based around ninth. So a lot of the stuff in there is designed for ninth. So seeing what we can see now in this, and especially what you just put so far, that maybe there are going to be definitely point changes, and that's going to
Mm.
and like just you said, you have to choose your toys on
Yeah,
what things you're going to take.
I really expect that when we hit 9th, and somebody said this it may have been in our team chat the other day, that actually when you look at dogmas, when you look at doctrines, and you start to look at what's coming out with 9th, maybe actually doctrines aren't the broken rule writing that we all thought they were. It's just that they were written for an edition that wasn't out yet.
Yes.
So, because all of a sudden now everything ignores moving and shooting, all of a sudden the Iron Hands Flyers list that was broken because of the doctrine, I mean, it's still got still the extra -1 AP. It's still gross, but I don't know. Maybe these doctrines, and I think their intention was always that you'd move through them. I just think that was an oversight in how the game would work that way. But the doctrines probably will look way more balanced moving into 9th. But yeah, I think Admech will be good. I think they're a serious player.
Anything that has new toys always does well for the first bit, and I think we're definitely going to see a big intake on them in tournaments.
Oh yeah, but wait till we see the Necron rules. That's what I'm saying. Those guys, I hope those guys are going to be good.
I reckon those guys are going to be OP.
But we need a new army, don't we? To me, Necrons is going to be like a new army.
Because they've got loads of different...
It feels like a new army in the game, and that's great. And the sculpts, obviously the pictures we've seen from
mate,
there, they're just
that's
outrageous.
like proper, mate.
All that War of the World stuff, and
the
Silent
It'd be
King,
interesting to see with
amazing.
It looks like the monolith's been replaced, doesn't it?
With a very cool looking model.
It looks like the Tri-Stalker's been replaced and updated.
Yeah, the new monolith looks amazing. I just hope it has rules to match.
Because fingers crossed, because that's always been the biggest.
It's up there with the Obelisk as the worst unit in 40k, I think. So.
Yeah, that's been the biggest problem, isn't it, with 40k? The lore doesn't represent the gameplay.
Yeah, that's all. But this, I feel like that's what this is about. This is about making a more immersive game that is more tactical and just altogether more enjoyable. So I'm excited for it. And I think we see on chats, don't we, people, and I think people are always worried about change.
But you've got the change curve, haven't you? So at the moment, with that change curve, you've got people at the moment at the top of the change curve, and they're getting, oh no, I don't like it, don't want to be part of it. And as they're slowly going down there, hating it, and as soon as we start getting into the beginning of the 9th, that's when people are going to start playing it, and they're like, actually, do you know what? This isn't that bad. I can kind of deal with this. And then as it starts going up that curve, it's going to be like, actually, do you know what? This is actually a really good addition. Really like that. And then you start getting back up to the top of the curve again, and it's going to be like, yeah, actually, 9th is, really, really good, really positive.
I mean, I'm a glass half full kind of guy, but I am so positive for this. So I can't wait.
Oh look, I'm all for this. I'm always for change, and sometimes we have to change to improve things. And if you think about where we were at the back of 7th, 8th was, look, 8th had some teething problems at the beginning where some of the rules could be easily broken, but the
Razorwing flocks,
spot on. But the beautiful thing about that was it's been addressed, it's been dealt with, and Games Workshop has done the right thing. They're speaking to the right people in my mindset, and making sure that the armies are starting to get balanced out. Listening to Lawrence and that today, and saying they've had that opportunity to have their input in it as well. Like that fills me with loads of confidence that a lot of people.
Every time he's spoken about it, he smiled.
Yeah, exactly.
And that to me says
we've got a good addition coming up.
We've got a good game.
Yes,
that's what we want. We want a good game.
Look, I've loved 40k for God knows how long, and it's always been an awesome game. And if they can make that game even better, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and I've got every faith they will. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's it. Anyway, I think that brings us up to
we've probably gone a bit
long, just over an hour.
Yeah, we've probably gone a bit long, but and so there's still stuff in here we haven't talked about. There's more in this book than we've talked about today.
Well, look, hopefully once lockdown's finished, or we get that ability to do a battle report, hopefully we can get a battle report together. And I'm not bloody facing this list.
Well, I won't bring all the breachers, I promise.
No, you bring the breachers. I'm going to get you to face Ace.
Okay. Yeah, right. Then
there you go. You see, you and Ace, and I can just sit there sniggering at him, going, "I know what you're going to face."
Well, I'm hoping that his nids are going to get the big old boost. I mean, I know he's been loving his tower lately, but if we can have a proper AdMech Midfest, that'd be good. I'd be into that.
That'd be really cool. I think this next edition, I think I might have to start on the Marine Brigade. I might have to just like join the Marine train and actually paint my lunar balls up and finally actually get that project on the go.
Absolutely.
But everything else keeps popping up. Oh, do you know what? I'd love to do Chaos.
Yeah.
I'd love to do Chaos.
Well, with Fabius and his new old Bile and all of the new rules that we're looking at getting there. And
yeah. But anyway, we've definitely got off topic again. But
we have,
thank you ever so much.
AdMech Chaos.
Yeah. Thank you everyone so much for joining us in this conversation. If you got to this point, thank you very much. Been really cool. Drop some comments down below if there's anything you agree with. Again, feel free to drop those comments down. We do appreciate all comments, and feedback is always golden.
And point out some more of the cool combos, because there's loads more in here than I've found.
Yeah, so, and again, just as I said at the beginning of the thing, make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the bell, and hopefully we'll catch you all again very, very soon. Thanks for watching.